Call this meeting of the Town of Abington, Virginia Planning Commission to order. Welcome, everybody. Ms. Rice, would you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Austin?
Present.
Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Weaver?
Present.
Mr. Pennington?
Present.
Mr. Sproles?
Present.
Mr. Wilson?
Present.
And Mr. Schuman is absent.
All right, thank you. We start out with approval of the minutes of the October 23rd, 2023 meeting. If everyone's had a chance to look at these, any changes or motion to approve?
I move they be approved as submitted.
Second here.
All right, any discussion? No? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I will abstain as I was not at the meeting. Thank you.
Likewise, I will abstain also,
Okay.
as not being present.
All right. Next, we have public comments for items not on the agenda. So do we have anyone sign up today? Okay. If you have an item on the agenda, you're welcome to come up and speak to that item when we get to that portion of the meeting. All right, move on to certificate of appropriateness. Aaron's Rental, 398 Cumming Street, Abington, Virginia. Applicant Jason Rust, representative. Certificate of appropriateness for signage located at 398 Cumming Street, tax map 020-13-1. Staff report.
Good evening. I'm Caleb Conklin, Planner 1 with the Town of Abington, and I'll be giving the first two staff reports today. So our first one is Aaron Reynolds, owner and applicant, and Jason Rust, the representative, have requested approval of an entrance corridor certificate of appropriateness to remove the existing monument and wall sign and replace them with a new signage and change the exterior paint scheme, and this will be located at 398 Cumming Street. A little bit of the background: there is an existing wall sign at the Abington Shopping Center monument sign structure. So the sign, the proposed freestanding signage will replace the existing signage on the Abington Shopping Center monument sign structure. Proposed sign will consist of 3M Panagraphics 3 flexible replacement face with vinyl graphics, and the sign will measure around 129.5 square feet. The size of the proposed signage matches the existing sign that's already there. Then there will also be a proposed illuminated wall sign. This will replace the existing illuminated sign on the front of the structure. The sign will use flat cut out clear Lexan with white vinyl, and the sign will measure 104 square feet. And the maximum size of the wall sign could be 132, so this does meet the requirement. The color of this sign will be Apopolic Materials CFB blue, also use white, and then Bristol blue vinyl. And then for that freestanding sign, that will also use the colors for Bristol blue, blackout, and then white as well. And then the applicant proposes to paint the front of the building, so they will use the color Software, Web Gray, and Big Chill. And then the owner has been in contact with us and saying that they were in contact with Jerry Signs. They were looking at a whole new design for that whole monument sign for the Abington Shopping Center. As of right now, we do not have a new design yet. Are there any questions for me? If not, I can step away.
All right, thank you. Any thoughts?
Only thing I wanted to tell you all is just to double down on what Caleb said. When we first saw this, they're replacing this large piece, but the sign looks very dated. So we did send them a message, and they indicated that they are looking to do something different in the future. As each one of these panels switches out, we were just hoping that they'd, come in with something. So they agreed that it's time. A future meeting though, not tonight.
So will Aaron's wait until the new monument?
Is the applicant for Aaron's here? If you want to step up to the podium and discuss it.
Could you give us your name?
Jason
please?
Rust.
Jason Rust, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Go
So
ahead.
you don't think they're planning to wait? So
No.
if the design that Jerry's gets approved requires a different sign, you'll come back again?
We're just a subcontractor for a national company,
Yeah,
so I think that sign would probably be something with the owner of the property.
okay.
In other words, I'm not sure what Jerry's has going on.
Okay, all right.
Who owns that I mean,
The Nice Wonders.
okay.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I don't have any problem with what they're proposing now. It would be nice to upgrade the whole thing, but this is definitely an improvement.
I think, I would move that we would approve the signage as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, could we take a roll call, please?
Mr. Austin.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Weaver.
Aye.
Mr. Pennington.
Aye.
Mr. Sproles.
Aye.
And Mr. Wilson.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Go back to my agenda. The next item is Certificate of Appropriateness, Young Investment Company, 484 East Main Street, Abington, Virginia.
That's all.
Applicant Interstate Sign Company. Certificate of Appropriateness for signage located at 484 Cumming Street. All right, Mr. Falcon.
Okay, so Young Investment Company, the owner, and Interstate Sign Company, applicant, have requested approval of an entrance corridor certificate of appropriateness to remove portions of the existing monument sign and replace it with new signage. This will be located at 484 Cumming Street. A little background on this. There is an existing freestanding sign, and the building is currently occupied by Kroger Fuel Center. The applicant proposes to remove the existing Kroger sign and the below three-product fuel price sign, and then the signs will be replaced with a new Kroger identification sign and a new three-product fuel sign with LED digits. The size of the Kroger identification sign will measure 21.8 square feet, and then the three-product fuel sign will measure 25.6 square feet. Both proposed signs will be the same size as the existing that you see here. And that is all for that. Any questions?
Thank you. Any thoughts or questions or discussion?
The only question I had were, and I need to refresh my memory on the LED lights and the lighting structures. Those are in compliance with applicable guidelines? Okay.
I think the only thing you can't do is like the animated LED screens.
Yeah, there is a timing for how often they can change, and this, well, hopefully the gas prices won't be changing too frequently, but it does meet that standard. So yes, if it was more of a LED billboard, I guess, similar to the other one that we looked at our last meeting, then there'd be probably other concerns, but it
Okay.
does.
Thank you. I make a motion the COA be approved as submitted.
All right, we have a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Sproles?
Aye.
And Mr. Wilson?
Aye. All right, next item. Certificate of Appropriateness Amendment, Abington Commons, 238 West Main Street. Nathan Berg, representative. Ms. Rice?
I'm not going to go into this too much. We didn't really do a staff report or anything of that nature, but as you all know, they had come in with a comprehensive sign plan prior, and he has a couple of additional amendments that he would want to do. Our comprehensive sign plans, the goal of them is really so that as the years go by, it kind of stands in the office, it's its own set of rules, and then as owners come and go, they can just come to us and get permits, and they don't always have to come back in front of you. However, the items that are on this list are signs that are different from the ones that were previously approved. And so they're coming here tonight to add these to their comprehensive sign plan. That is it. Nathan is here, so if you would like to. And I'm starting with the blade sign.
Yeah. Nathan Berg, 24383 Walden Road. So the main, well, let me back up. What I presented to you guys before was something that we had compiled internally as we waited for our designers to finish the design. And because of the schedule of the project, I wasn't able to get you the final design done by the professional design people. What you're looking at today represents their final professional design. It does not deviate substantially from what was approved. From what I could tell, the main difference is the front lettering that goes on the front of the building. The rest of the signs fall within what was already approved for the comprehensive sign plan in terms of the size, colors, etc. The main difference is what you're looking at right now. This lettering would be painted onto the brick and is the part which says Abington Commons is very close to the size of what was previously approved, but the strip of descriptive wording on the bottom is different than what was approved. So really the main thing that is different than what was already approved is both the color of this lettering and also that strip of descriptive wording on the bottom.
So that black strip is painted on, not, it's not applied.
Correct, it would be painted on.
What's the illumination for it, if any?
The illuminate, how, are you asking how the lettering would be illuminated?
Yes.
It would not be illuminated. The painted lettering would not be illuminated. There would be, the blade sign will have lights shining onto it, but the lettering itself, I guess, well, those goosenecks lights, those would illuminate kind of that bottom section, but.
Yeah, I
where it
mean, you've
says-
got, like you said, goosenecks
Right.
shining down on them.
Correct, right. But then, the main purpose of this is to provide lettering that would be very similar to what, lettering on a sign would have looked like when the building was first built in the 20s. So having painted lettering on the brick is very common with that vintage of building. And so we wanted to do something that was in keeping with the overall architectural aesthetic.
The main entrance, that's catty corner.
Mhm.
Refresh my memory as to the signage that is
Yeah.
on that and the colors.
So what we had presented before was a mosaic tile sign that would go in that archway. This would be, in line with what we had submitted before. There is the addition, what we had submitted before was not as fully fleshed out as this is.
Is this still going there?
This is what's going there, yes.
And then you're gonna have the blade sign on the corner, on the front corner, or? where-
Blade sign would be going perpendicular to Main Street.
Oh, okay, coming straight out.
coming straight off the building.
And there is a sign box already there.
Correct, we will take down the existing sign box and replace it with this. And this is, I think, falls within the size of what our original proposal was.
Just out of curiosity, the difference in the colors, and granted, the purview of the planning commission is, we can provide guidance, but under the comprehensive sign plan, everything is to kind of flow.
Right.
And coordinate.
So the lettering, are you talking about on the front of the building?
Well, I mean, for example, that sign, you've got those same colors that are over
Uh-huh.
on the other fascia.
Right,
And then you've got totally different colors facing Main Street.
right. So those, that, kind of the aqua, the refresh Sherwin-Williams 6751. So that is one of the main colors of the Abington Commons brand. And so if you go, if you go to the website or you go to throughout the space, you'll see a common motif of that, using that color.
Do you all want to look at the one from August that
I
looked at?
think I was absent for that meeting, so.
Okay, let's see if we
if
can
you've
find
got
that.
it, I'd like to take a glance at it.
Okay.
So what we submitted in August, this was prior to having the full brand design from the company that has designed the Abington Commons brand.
Let's see.
Marijuana-related business.
I know.
Things you never thought you would have seen, right?
See if we can go through this. It looks a little blurry. Let's see if I got it better.
Oh, that's okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
So originally, there was the square Abington Commons that was out front. There was this logo, however, this archway wasn't filled with the words, and
Right.
this Abington Commons was above it.
Yeah.
So that goes away above it,
Correct.
is that right?
And then everything.
Everything is in the mosaic that
Yes.
we're looking at the archway there.
Yeah.
Okay, and the blade sign that we're talking about is the square sign there.
Blade sign looks much better than that.
Right, I think
Yeah.
overall it looks love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great when you have professionals coming up with the design, so.
Will there be any signage in those individual arches?
Yes.
There will, and that actually stays basically exactly as presented. And we, because of the fact, we've actually already installed those signs, because there was no change.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was there the other day, and
Correct.
I thought I was
Yeah.
seeing signs up there, yeah.
So if you see there, yeah,
Okay.
that's basically what we have currently hanging up there.
Do you have a picture from Main Street in these?
Let's see. Would it be the north elevation?
Yes.
Yes.
Or primary, okay.
Yes.
That's right, okay.
Yes, so you see there, the Abington Commons lettering was all on that lower section. We're moving that up and then putting in that band, which kind of adds a little bit more description of what is going on inside the space.
Yeah, so all of the Abington Commons that's moved to the upper level is new.
The
Correct.
Abington Commons, well, so the Abington there's still, I don't know if you can go back and forth between the two.
It's kind of tough.
Always doing
Sorry.
something this,
Yeah.
Basically, we moved the Abington
And,
Commons up
Yeah.
and then added a strip which says,
What it is?
yeah.
So,
all the other stuff.
because, we don't, our purview is not to approve the language that's in it. Essentially, the square footage that you see here, that square footage that was approved is moving up. And then the fundamental request is to add square footage down below.
Right.
So, and again, not saying that the business will have any problems, but if the business ever changed to something completely different, he could come back to us as staff and change the words out here Your approval will be for the square footage that exists in this image.
But
So
this-
if a cider house wasn't there and it became an ice cream
Right,
shop, then
we
you
could
could come
change
back
that
and say,
lettering.
ice cream.
And what's being added is within guidelines of what is allowable per,
It is not. So the thing with the comprehensive sign plan is that they're asking for flexibility, so it is more signage.
I'm just curious, and again, I don't have any problem with what's presented, but I'm curious on the color changes back and forth between your main sign, the mosaic, your wall sign, and then what you've got as far as the aqua and the black.
The,
I mean, the other is Muslim and a black magic, the cream and the black magic.
right. Why the blue?
Why the change, yeah.
Why the blue? Because I think it stands out a little bit more, it pops a little bit more, and also the blue is one of the central colors to the overall brand of the Avenue Commons.
Is your website up if I just Google searched it?
It's not yet, but it's, I know. I need to get on that. Yeah, so
So how much is being exceeded by the individual letters on the front? I mean, you don't count the black bar because that's really not signage,
Right, we'd count each of the square,
The area of each letter?
yes, and I apologize because, well, you can tell them how,
Yeah.
when you submitted
Yeah,
this to me. so.
My Anna was very gracious and allowed us to go ahead and get on the agenda, because there is a timing issue with trying to get the space open, and there was obviously a delay in us getting the final design from the design company. But, so that's 100% on me.
As in, there's no square foot, I mean, he didn't provide anything with square footage or any of that. so.
Correct. So we could, that could be easily determined. The thought is under the, basically, the question is, what we're proposing, does that fall within what can be approved under our comprehensive sign plan?
Okay, I have one more question. The archway mosaic isn't eliminated at all, is it?
That's correct.
Okay. I don't have a problem with any of it.
And these lights that are on the front were approved with your previous
Correct.
request as well.
Yeah.
So those
That's
haven't
not a
changed.
change, Right.
so I guess going back, so what we're really voting on is, we're proposing is the change of Abington Commons going up on the Main Street side. We know it exceeds, or the intent is to exceed the allowable square footage, but we don't quite know what the square footage is yet.
Mm-hmm.
And for the comprehensive sign plan, what we had submitted and what was approved already exceeded what is allowed under the prescriptive guidelines. And so we're essentially saying, you know.
So we could base it on that if we've already approved that Abington Commons, how much?
Well, so here's what it says.
So what are we really voting on? I
Sure,
guess is what
yep,
we're saying.
yep. So here's how I would suggest. If you like this, if you like what you see, I would vote and make a condition that he submits the square footage to the staff. If you don't like it and you vote to deny it, it won't matter. However, the comprehensive sign plan, basically you are asking for flexibility from the underlying zoning. So the real question is, how much flexibility do you want to give him? So I would say, because we don't know what the square footage is on this, I would not suggest limiting it unless you truly knew. Like if you knew that your building was 70 feet long, then they could offer you 72 more square feet of signage than you were originally approved for. However, I'm guessing you don't know that, so.
Yeah, I would feel, I don't wanna, I mean, I could give you guys a rough estimate, but I wouldn't feel comfortable just throwing it out there.
We
But
can
I mean,
count
ju-
bricks and count.
I mean, I could, it's,
No.
You
No,
can
I mean,
always
I guess,
eliminate the
but-
word quality because it's smaller scale anyway. That would bring you closer.
But
So I-
having the applicant submit the square footage afterwards
Mhm.
does what? Just establishes a baseline?
It does.
So that if there's any deviation going forward,
They
then they
would
would
have-
have to come back.
You are correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see here the original one, for example, perpendicular to the road, they were gonna have a 4x4. And that was for, this sign. Below the lettering will be Abington Commons monogram logo with a diameter of 3 feet, constructed using brass and mosaic tiles. So in all reality, this sign is already essentially approved. They are no longer using that square footage above. So, so you're having less square footage on the front, that's been moved into here. And then as we go through each of these signs, I mean, basically they're asking for an additional roughly, I would say 50 square feet of signage.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
roughly.
roughly, yeah.
Everything else has been basically moved around. But I don't wanna put words in your mouth,
So our vote in
please don't.
August was to approve, I mean, we were already exceeding at that particular time in August.
100%, yes.
And we're not quite sure, we're certain that it's gonna go up, but we're not quite sure exactly what more we're exceeding.
Correct.
At what point, Nathan, would that be, I mean, how quickly or is
I mean,
that?
I can get that to you guys tomorrow. I mean, it really would only take moments for me to do.
Are you literally putting what is on the picture, groceries, coffee,
That's
all that, or is that
literally-
just exam?
No, that's literally what we're doing.
Because that's like, I don't know, I just counted, it's like 57 letters, so it'd be,
Yeah, I mean, if the
I'd say
letter.
70 square feet just to be,
Yeah, I mean,
because there's no
to
way
be
they're
generous,
a
yeah,
foot by a
sure.
foot, but you
Yeah.
can say 70 and probably be in the ballpark, and that would be a
Yeah.
safe margin, maybe.
Well, as I said, I don't have an issue with any of this, but, you know, we're talking about square footage per letter. And next year, it could be a whole different thing. Does he have to come back again?
He would not. So as long as, if you gave him 70 square feet of additional signage on the front, that's what we'll add to his master sign plan. And then if there is no longer, I don't, like, just looking at here, flowers or whatever you put, fresh flowers, if there's no longer fresh flowers, and there's some other use in there, he would simply come into the staff office and say, I'm using 3 square feet, then I'm replacing it with 3 square feet of new language. So we don't monitor what the words say, we just monitor what the square footage is, and then you all with the colors and the way it looks.
But the square footage in the areas that have been approved.
Correct.
For example, Abington Commons
Yes.
up top, he
Yes.
cannot come back and change that.
He could come back, let's just say he wanted to call it Abington Square instead of Abington Commons.
Yeah.
He could come in and instead change it to Abington Square. However, the word square would have to fit in the same square footage as the commons. And so at the moment, right now, if he didn't want to come through an amendment process at all, he could have tried to fit, measured out the square footage that you all provided him prior, and then come in with lettering that fit in the exact same square footage. And I don't think any of this has changed, correct? Okay.
But that square footage is in the same location on the building.
Correct.
You can't take that square footage and move it around on the building, anything
No.
of that nature.
No.
Okay.
And these were the original colors. I don't know if that blue really, I don't know, there was some discussion about the blue.
Yeah,
so-
the color palette that I submitted, is the new updated color palette. And the main thing that changed was the addition of that lighter blue color.
This is neither.
This is-
How do we-
I thought you were gonna
Again.
pronounce something once you look.
How do we know what we're voting on?
As far as the square footage, we don't.
I'm asking for 70 additional square feet. That would go along the bottom band, that bottom band, and I am asking that the Abington Commons, the square footage allotment of that Abington Commons be moved up to either side of the blade sign. So the additional square footage I'm asking for is additional 70 square feet of lettering on the front of the building.
How much in excess were we already?
Do you have the
Because that's, I mean,
ordinance?
that's really what we're voting on, is we're voting on 70 plus what we've already voted on.
Do you have your ordinance easily accessible?
This one, I know
Okay.
the fronts, if that's your front, it's 2 square feet of every length of the front. Depends on how long that front elevation.
2 square feet per linear feet along the front of the building, so he'd really be able to have 140 square feet, so it's not actually an excess on the front. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if that's his front, if that's what he says is his front.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the front.
Well, that's for the strip, not the top lettering.
Correct. So it would have to be all combined together.
Correct.
So yeah, I guess I'm asking for an additional 70 square feet.
Yeah, I'm not sure, just like, the comments have been made, I've got a concern with it. It's just, one, what are we voting on? We can clarify that, but two, where does it stop? You know, as far as the deviations and what is the max, so to speak. Because what we're doing here will be a precedence, you know,
So I-
going forward.
So I guess nobody would be able to go beyond that additional 70 square feet. So let's call it, the original is X, so I'm asking for X plus 70. So no one would be able to go beyond X plus 70 in the future without gaining approval from the planning commission.
So here is the section. So we'll just go through it. You get 1 freestanding sign not to exceed 60 square feet, which they have 1 freestanding sign. Projecting, they get 1 per street frontage, which ultimately they have 1 that will be on Main Street, and then there was kind of multiple projecting signs along the larger strip because Tumbling Creek, and there were some other signs that you got approved the first time around. Wall signs, you have 1 per street frontage, per business. So this really is 2 signs on the street frontage. So what he would be asking for in flexibility is total number of signs, if you were to put this into a motion, total number of signs, and he would also like, and I think that you're not crossing over, you get 2 square feet for every 1 lineal feet of building face. So I don't think that you're crossing over that, because I don't think that this is 140 square feet of signage.
No.
With the top factored in.
Correct, I don't think. You can tell me,
I mean, again, I could, if I was sitting at my computer, I could tell you real quick, but
Is
I
it-
don't think it is.
Does the blade sign count, or is that separate?
that is projecting, so that is separate,
That's
and that's
separate, okay.
supposed to be 12 square feet maximum. However, there is a sign there already. So really, honestly, it's the fact that there's multiple signs on the front.
Yeah, we're gonna have 3 signs on the front.
Correct. And then it's the color and the location of the signs. So for you all in the entrance corridor, I mean, it really is a certificate of appropriateness is what we would normally be looking at, which we saw with the other 2 signs. So you're saying, is this appropriate signage for the entrance corridor?
Well, my opinion, which, I mean, for what it's worth, As an architect, I'm more interested in the aesthetics than I am the square inches or square feet. And I think that what is presented here tonight is more aesthetic than what was approved in August. And so I don't have an issue with what's been presented here. And I'm not ready to make a motion, but I would approve as presented. I think somebody won't like this, but, you know, I'm an architect and I work for an engineering firm. And we always say that engineers solve solutions. They create solutions. Architects create a place that people are gonna wanna be. And I think this is a place where people are gonna wanna be. They're gonna be attracted to this. And so I think it's an asset to the building. I usually don't like, I don't like my buildings to be billboards. But I think this is recreates some of the character that a downtown would have had in the 1940s, for example, which I think is probably the intent.
Yep.
Well, and I think the painting of the brick is in keeping with an older style. But back to Chad's comment earlier, it's, okay, tell us what we're actually approving. We're approving a deviation in the square footage. We're approving a deviation in the number of signs that are allowed on the face of the building. The monument sign, is already in excess of what's been approved previously, or what the standards allow. So what's being requested here really are those first two things, the square footage and the number of signs. Am I right?
You are correct.
Okay.
Yes.
What about the color of it? Does anyone have any problems with the color? And the contrasting color between the various sides of the building?
I like it.
You'd like it?
I do.
I like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
I
It's got a
I like
fade.
the other color.
Well, I do too.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, just if we're being honest, I don't understand the difference in the contrast. Because you're gonna have a wall sign that is the cream and the black, then all of a sudden, you go around to the face, like it's the cream and the black again, and then you come to the Main Street side, and you've got, the black and the aqua. I understand about the brand and what have you, but it's just,
Why is it not carried, why is the brand color not carried to the other facades?
but again, I can always go back to, I know we have under a comprehensive sign plan to make sure that everything is coordinated. But normally that's left up to the applicant.
And flows, I think, is one of the words that
Yeah.
it's all to
The
do.
signs that are hanging already in terms of the archways along the other, what,
They are this muslin color.
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
So they match more of the mosaic on the
Mhm.
archway.
So, kind of,
And the-
speaking in terms of design, so as an example, there will be umbrellas shade umbrellas that are, that they would see in a patio. Those will be on the porch, and those colors will complement and match the aqua brand colors. So even though that aqua color might not be in signage on the rest of the building, there will be other fixtures and finishes that will match those colors, so that when you do look at it, it will all kind of make sense as a whole.
You're if you look at the east elevation, you're standing there, you're getting that cream and black, and you're seeing the blade sign.
That's right.
You're standing across the street, you're not seeing any of that. You're seeing the aqua and black.
Correct.
So it is sort of separated. You'll see
when
blade
you're
sign
You'll see
the
when
blade
you drive by,
sign.
but it's not, I think you'll notice more the aqua I don't think it's a big deal myself, but.
I tend to agree with you, you know, and again, this is not one of my strong suits, you can ask my wife. And sometimes having a variation of colors lends character. So, that's just my opinion. I probably would have carried those other colors around, but certainly I'll acquiesce to the board.
I think it looks very nice. I mean, it's inviting to come in and get your attention. As long as Jeff said, any increase in the square footage, which would be perfectly fine here in appearance, doesn't set a precedent for something where it might not be quite as appropriate in another location for another business. But to me, this looks fabulous.
I mean, sooner or later, hopefully, we'll have other applicants that'll come before and say, you did this here, you know, so.
I think, again, the purpose of the comprehensive sign plan is to provide that flexibility. That's part of the reason why we didn't come forward with a certificate of appropriateness to begin with, because we knew all along that additional flexibility was gonna be needed because of the unique nature of this project. And so what this does is we have the comprehensive sign plan, and what we're saying is that written into that comprehensive sign plan will be stated 70 square feet for this additional signage. And so that will now be the standard. And so if we sell this tomorrow or in 20 years from now, whoever wants to put up new signage, they'll have to fall within the guidelines of that comprehensive plan, unless they want to change it. And in that case, they'll come to you and ask for a modification.
Well, but I guess the precedent that we're setting is not just for your building, but for any that come. And if we've already exceeded the allowable square footage once, I still go back to, I don't know what we're voting on.
Yeah.
If we don't have it finalized yet, we don't have a staff report.
What you're truly voting on is adding the signage along the front of this building. So you're voting on multiple signs on the front face. Normally, they'd only be allowed one.
So-
This is 3 signs.
And this is different if somebody, like the guy next door is like, oh, I want a 170 square foot sign, like one big
Right.
sign. That's a whole different story than 170 feet of sign that's arranged like this. So
Correct.
I think if someone else did come in, I don't know if you could make that distinction. If they said, oh, I'm gonna put a billboard essentially up here,
Mhm.
I think you could say no.
Well, I can remember that we did something like that across the street, where Greco's wanted to paint a mural on that concrete retaining wall at the back of their property. And the historical review board said they already had too much area, as I recall. And it's not too much uncommon. I mean, not too much unlike this.
And even in the HPRB, when buildings are allowed 4 square feet, which is quite small, unless you're a church or a restaurant. So there is the flexibility for additional signage in the HPRB, but specifically for different types of uses. But so if I was to calculate, how large do you think your Abingdon Commons, are those 2.5 feet tall?
Oh, no, they're probably 16 inches tall.
Okay. So I mean, if you did even 2 by 40, you've got 80 square feet along the top, plus 70, so 80 plus 70, you're 156. Well, sorry, 150 square feet. So even this signage in general, would be allowed 2 square feet for every 1 foot of lineal. So you're you're maybe 10 square feet over what would be allowed even within the code. It's really the fact that there's multiple signs here.
And code really is more applicable to a single business,
Mhm.
where this is not a single business.
That is correct.
So not to put you on the spot, staff doesn't have a problem with what's being submitted.
No, I don't. I mean, I do agree that if the muslin beige color seems like it would make more sense, but again, I'm not a designer, so I think that you have to look at what he's submitted. You know, again, we're not gonna try to redesign your project for you, so if you've submitted that and you don't like the blue, then I would suggest that you table it and ask him to come back with a different color. But if the majority of people are okay with the blue, then you would vote to approve it. And then as far as the square footage, I would say he's basically asking for an additional 10 square feet of signed square footage and multiple signs. However, similar to what we've dealt with other people in other buildings, people love the sort of awning, I call it sort of like an awning style sign that says the items that are in there with the name above it. You see that on Mamma Mia's Pizza. I mean, there's other places around town that has this. Now, just for your sake, we have amended the code, so you can't fill the windows with signage now. We have amended
Yeah,
the
we
code
don't-
that only 10%.
I don't understand that. Windows are meant to be, want to be able to look inside and see what's in there, so I don't like putting a bunch of things to block the view into the building.
Well, I know I'm weird, but when I look at that, I see that we have quality provisions in market, but we don't have quality cider and we don't have quality groceries and coffee. And so I'd lose quality. I mean, what does that mean, really? Everything is a quality.
Well, that's true.
It's either a good quality or a poor quality. That doesn't really tell me anything. If I see coffee, I know what that means.
Yeah.
But when I see quality, I think, well, according to who?
Right. I think maybe that was a little bit of a nod to kind of some retro, kind of the way a sign you might have seen in the 40s or 30s. But yeah, that's, I didn't write the copy.
But that's when everybody smoked everywhere, airplanes,
Oh,
everything
yeah.
of this nature, so.
I do agree, though, that this is, this style of signage is what you are seeing frequently in other communities for this type of a business. A food market would have that. The word provisions is extremely popular right now. It may not be popular in the future, so.
Well, I like it because in the 40s, 50s, every town had its own character. And now, you know, even Jackson Browne wrote a song about it. We're gonna have a concert in Chicago or Detroit. I don't know. All these towns look the same. That's the sort of the lyric. And now we have every town does look the same. Every town has a strip. Every town looks the same. Signage is the same. I like getting back to every town has its own character. Wish we all had a local sign painter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We've managed to find one, and so that's.
I'm in favor as presented, but I don't know how to word it.
So the actual amendment would be, it would be an amendment to the comprehensive sign plan for Abington Commons to allow an additional 2 signs on the front of the building, with a condition that the applicant brings in the exact dimensions to staff upon acquiring them. Or that would be your condition, is that we actually need to know, because what we're gonna have is then, when we get all of this together, which I hope this is the final amendment, but we'll have basically a document that has all of the items, so anyone could come in to us and get a sign in the future. So even the signs on the side, if instead of saying bakery, cafe, et cetera, they wanted to say the names of the businesses, they could come in to us and switch those out. So it just gives them, it gives all of the owners inside of this space some flexibility for signage. So the motion is to amend the existing comprehensive sign plan for the Abington Commons to add 2 signs to the front of the structure, and provide staff with the final square footage.
You're actually adding 1 sign.
Yes, I guess 1 additional, yes,
One
because they
additional.
did have 2 originally.
1 additional, and then an additional not to exceed 70 square feet
Yes.
along the top band.
Yeah, I think you've got to put the square footage in, or
Yep.
it could bring in whatever you want.
Yes,
Correct.
Well,
agreed.
also, could you reference this picture?
You
and
can,
say, you gotta
definitely.
Yeah, that would be
this.
great.
You can reference the submittal,
Yeah.
not to exceed.
Not to exceed in compliance with, or, I'm having a brain lapse.
I would just say that we
In
approve it
substantial compliance
as we've
with.
discussed and as Caleb writes it up.
Yeah, Caleb, could you read back the motion? I'm joking.
Well, we appreciate you guys looking at this, and we're excited to get this thing open. Hoping we're probably within about a week of being able to open it.
So we have motion language, but we don't have a motion. We have motion language, but we don't have a motion.
Did you want
That you-
I move we accept the application as worded by Ms. Rice and Mr. Johnson. That's the best I can do.
All right, do we have a
I know
second
what I'm voting
to
for
that
now.
motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
All right.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Sproles?
Aye.
And Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And for the record, you're accepting the application as presented, based on the attached diagrams, and not to exceed an additional 70 square feet,
Amending to allow 1 more sign,
amending to allow more.
not to exceed, in substantial compliance with the exhibit that was submitted.
You got that? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the opening.
All right, next item is yurts.
Okay, this is kind of a funny one. So we'll just, let's see if I can get down to the end of this, if anyone's still watching on TV. So we have had an applicant who came in and wanted to, maybe it's not the last item, that might be waivers. They came in and they wanted to actually put in a yurt. Now, they wanted to put in a yurt on Main Street. Does everyone know what a yurt is?
Yes.
Yes.
It's basically, and this is just in case anyone's listening at home, it's basically a tent-like exterior on a structure that is built interior to it. So
Was this barter?
What was that?
Was this barter?
No, it was a
I'm
person.
giving you a hard time
No,
with tents.
yeah, it was a person down here, next to like where Gibson's Auto used to be. There's oddly a couple of vacant lots there. And then we have another woman who's interested in a separate neighborhood. And then originally, our very original question a couple years ago was actually for this 7.5 acres that's at, it's kind of behind JJ's, and in that area, there's an interesting lot that's kind of landlocked back there. So we've had a variety of questions about it. And so in general, we have said, you know, they're tents, they fall more into a camping, they can't meet the regulations that are required by the Virginia building code, and we didn't see them as a single family home. Now, the Commonwealth of Virginia has changed their tune on yurts, and now they are actually being considered a structure. So you can see here in the, I guess, this memo that Rick provided to us, it says the International Energy Conservation Code states that the purpose of the Energy Code is to regulate the construction of buildings for the effective use of energy. And so based on the opinion from a former technical service manager with the Division of Building and Fire Regulations of the VADHCD, if energy is not being purchased, solar power or wood is being used, then arguably there is no energy usage. And so the whole point of the energy code is to reduce the consumption of non-renewable energy. So for a long time, Rick had been, saying we really could not address the energy requirements of the building code with yurts. With that change, we decided that we needed to bring this to the Planning Commission to make a decision on the zoning side. So currently, we have alternative types of dwelling units, such as mobile homes, that are allowed in mobile home parks. Now, if you come and you want to do a stick-built home, a manufactured home on a permanent foundation, that is considered a normal stick-built home. We don't have a distinction between manufactured versus a brick home, etc. But we do currently have a distinction for mobile homes. So what I wanted to find out is if for this use, the use of a yurt, you all were interested in simply saying, yes, a yurt is no different than any other single-family home. Or if you would say, similar to mobile homes, that you wanted a specifically sized property, a specific zoning category, or if there are any other parameters that you wanted to apply to yurts, such as setback, screening, or a review process around yurts on the property. I think that, this really becomes a design issue and much less a whether or not it is a home. Because again, a mobile home is a home. However, we have created zoning categories for mobile homes. And so yurts really fall more into a design question than they do whether or not they can truly function as a built structure that is habitable. So I put a couple of our definitions in here. We have tents are identified inside the campgrounds. A dwelling single family is a site-built or modular building designed for and used exclusively as one dwelling unit for permanent occupancy by one family, which is surrounded by open space or yards on all sides. And then we talk about what a modular home is. And that's a dwelling unit constructed on-site in accordance with the Virginia 1 and 2 Family Dwelling Code or the Commercial Code, and composed of components substantially assembled in a manufacturing plant and transported to the building site for final assembly on a permanent foundation. This is an allowed form of construction in all districts. So I will just stop talking and open it up to hear what you all are thinking.
Sort of. I've stayed in yurts and they vary wildly from, I could cut a hole in it and, with a penknife and get out to this is pretty solid structure. And I guess it depends what the person is using it for. Is it a guest house or is it actually a primary residence? There's just a lot of questions now. State Parks has been building yurts for people to rent. And those designs have to go through DEB, which is super strict. That's the state building official. And so it'd be interesting to see what standards those are built to. And maybe you could establish some kind of a baseline for the quality of construction that's expected for a, quote, yurt in town.
So they would follow the same building requirements in the state parks as Rick would be applying here in town. So, and that's kind of why I brought up the energy code, because the hardest thing has always been the fact that they function more similarly to a tent, and less. And the ones I know, like at Hungry Mother, I've stayed in those, and they almost have it's almost like a plastic canvas type. So it is definitely more, it has a bed in there, a dresser, hardwood floors, they're definitely more of a structure.
Yeah.
So that is the type. As far as the construction, it would have to be constructed of that nature. So, I mean, that's where it goes back to more of the design characteristics, like, do we want yurts on Main Street? Do we want yurts on do we want them just as accessory dwelling units? Do we have any of those types of concerns at all?
The only place I've ever seen yurts are in campgrounds. And, they're made for temporary camping. Your point as far as the zoning for different structures, mobile homes and what have you. Here, I see yurts really as fancy tents. So if anywhere, then, incorporate that within areas in which campgrounds would be permitted.
Is there a?
Definitely not in a business occupancy.
Not a business, but I don't see that really how you'd incorporate that within an R1, R2, R3 zone, anything of that nature.
Maybe
Even what you're gonna have is individuals wanting to lease that out, Airbnb and things of that nature, all over town. And personally, I don't think that's appropriate.
Well,
And currently, we would allow a yurt in a campground. So
Correct.
on the 7.5 acres that we were talking about here, we did tell those people who were interested in the property at that time, we said, yes, you can put yurts in here. They did want people to be able to live in them or stay in them year-round and make them more as like short-term rentals. At the time, Rick would not have allowed it based on the building code. This would, now that the building code has changed to allow this, we would have allowed them to do that, again, as a campground, but similar to a flexible short-term rental campground.
They have some beautiful yurts down at the Virginia where the new
Yes.
hotel is.
Yeah, in
Just
fact,
across the street in the wooded section there. They are awesome. I've been through it. I haven't stayed in one, but it's.
Now, those are actually.
Very nice home.
This.
Yeah, those are actually
Yeah.
constructed.
Yep.
So
of
these
wood.
are,
That's
yeah.
a single-family residential.
that's stretching the definition of yurt. That's a circular.
That's
yeah.
what they call them.
It's the Taj Mahal of yurts.
Yeah, I mean, those are
Yeah.
circular homes.
Yeah, we have some out near exit 19 that are geodesic type.
Yeah, we do.
And that's more of that nature. But- Well, I don't,
This is usually,
yeah, that's a yurt.
I've forgotten about those.
Yeah.
Those are gorgeous.
Oh, they're great.
yeah, I mean, these are sort of more of your traditional,
But they're hidden, and if we allow these, like where Gibson's Automotive used to be, that changes the character of the town. I
Right.
don't think we want that. It's not Gatlinburg, by the way.
I don't know, you know, somebody, we talked about like tiny house communities, maybe we
Mhm.
do a yurt community, that'd be pretty cool too.
so I mean, so again, just because it's just a discussion tonight, I mean, you could treat them like you treat mobile homes and say, if somebody did want to come through and do a tiny house community or a mobile home or a yurt community, that they could come through. You know, it could be in that nature, like a special use permit to allow that. That is, you know, that's always an option. That way
That's
you
what I
get to
was thinking,
review.
if we just change that section from mobile homes to mobile homes and yurts,
Mhm.
they would have to be in a park, in that case, right?
Mhm. Correct.
And I think what we're saying that, and you can tell from the pictures that you're showing, it's so diverse
Mhm.
from the tent situation, a glorified tent, to what we were discussing as small homes a moment ago. That's difficult to
Yes.
legislate.
And we, if somebody came in, and I guess, because I had forgotten what the Virginians look like, but if somebody came in with an alternate design for a home, that is not something that we would regulate. So we've had people ask us about silo homes. We've had people ask us about like truck, like the box car where you have two box cars on top of each other. And in both those cases, we have said to them, or tiny homes, we've said to them, if it meets the building code, you can build it. So we haven't limited design from that standpoint. However, we do have a woman who has purchased a lot in town and wanted to put a yurt on it, and at the moment I said it's not an allowed use.
Yurt as an intent, not yurt as in a
Not as in a,
Virginian
correct.
example.
I think they should be in a specified development, or you're gonna end up with a bunch of them scattered everywhere that are not going to be something we're very proud of.
Okay.
I'll second what Kurt just said.
So if it was a development of them, just like a mobile home, then you would feel comfortable with that, but having them on individual single-family lots. Okay. Okay.
Is there a minimum acreage relative to the park or anything of that nature?
Yeah, there are items related to a campground, even down to like the width of the driveway, like the drive-through and all of that. So yes, when people get into the designing of a campground, we do have standards in there. Okay,
All
well,
right.
that is what I wanted to.
We got two final.
I think the rest of your items, I think, are just waivers.
Okay.
So those are just put into your agenda for you to see what we've waived this month. No
All right.
action needs to be taken on either of them.
All right. Anyone got anything else? All right, if not, I'll,
Oh, that's right. Didn't get put, I must have just missed it on the agenda. So yes, the December meeting, we had all agreed earlier, I think in the year, that we do it on December 18th. However, if nothing comes in, if nothing is submitted to staff, we're not going to be as gracious as we were to you. Basically, you know, our deadline is always that first week of the month, so if nothing comes in by that first week in December, we'll just send out a cancellation notice. Just because with all the holidays, it's, you know, people need to be meeting the deadline, so. If you all are comfortable with that, we'll let you know as we get there.
okay.
Okay.
I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Sure.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There you go.
There you go.